Welcome to Drunkview, where today we're talking about Frankenstein, but not the one from a really long time ago or the other many ones that have come since. Today we're talking about Guillermo del Toro's 2025 version. Connor, what is the plot of Frankenstein?
Frankenstein is back with a vengeance. Dr. Frankenstein creates the monster, and the monster is misunderstood. People want to kill the monster. The monster just wants to be loved, wants its own monster companion, befriends some old dude, and fights a bunch of CGI wolves. And turns out he's not such a bad guy after all. The general story of Frankenstein. So Aiden, what did you think of this newest of 5,000 Frankenstein adaptations?
I really liked Frankenstein. I thought it was great. As always, Guillermo del Toro, fantastic production design, There's a non-production design-related visual issue in that this movie was produced by Netflix, so it looks it has that Netflix color grading and Netflix CGI that makes it look a lot cheaper than it feels like it should. The CGI deer is especially awful, basically on the level of Ring 2. Those CGI deer. And there's some pretty clunky CGI backgrounds and the Netflix color grading.
Also, just the cheap looking digital cameras they use because it's Netflix, and they're like, this handy cam is perfectly adequate for your historical drama, Guillermo.
Yep. But the production design stuff is really good as always, the sets and costumes, and I love the makeup on the monster, even if he doesn't look all that monstrous, but I guess given how the story plays out in this version, probably not really supposed to. I really liked the twists on the story. The initial half of the movie is told from Victor's perspective, while the second half is the monster's perspective, and Frankenstein, it doesn't play out exactly as it had before. There's certainly much more about Frankenstein's the monster's relationship with his kind of father.
Holy shit.
And Victor Frankenstein's relationship with his own father that kind of colors his interactions with the monster. And They get a sweet resolution in the end that I thought was really great. Other than that, I think the cast is very strong. Christoph Waltz is a fairly important character in the first half. Oscar Isaac is very good. Mia Goth doesn't have a whole ton to do, but she does what she needs to well.
She's doing Mia Gothisms.
Yeah. And whoever plays the monster does a very, very good job of it, especially with the physical aspects, like when he's a little newborn child and he's playing with leaves and crawling around on the ground all weird. And obviously that's like Guillermo del Toro's thing with the weird fish sex movie and all the stuff going on in Hellboy and Pan's Labyrinth and stuff. But
he also, I like how the monster, one of the things I do actually like is they really took care to make the monster just look fucking ginormous at all times.
Oh yeah, he's fucking big. The monster gets a lot of sweet moments with the old guy he befriends, and I really like the conclusion. Outside of Netflixing it up a little bit, which is sadly just an unavoidable factor of how Guillermo del Toro's career's turned out. I thought it was quite good looking, and I really liked it. Connor, what did you think of Frankenstein?
To expand on your points, I visually despise this movie. It's like the set decoration is amazing. There's these huge, like, there's a bunch of big castles they're in, and, like, awesome location scouting. Pretty good costumes. I don't really understand, like, the fucking shiny green, like, flamingo, or not flamingo, what the fuck,
That's how rich women used to dress, Doug.
I know, but it just looked fucking weird. And, like,
does.
I mean, kind of, that. Rich women sat there being fucking Mia Goth in every Mia Goth movie in a fucking flamingo outfit. Like, it was weird. I didn't care for it, but that's not even that big of a deal because Mia Goth isn't that important. I mean, the CGI is abysmal and there's way too much of it. Like, they throw in a bunch of CGI animals. There's some cool moments where, like, there's some cool gore moments occasionally, like the gunshots feel very visceral. Somebody gets shot and they're just squirting blood everywhere. Still kind of has that melodrama you'd expect from an adaptation of a Victorian era story, which is most famously adapted in the 20th century 9,000 times. So you kind of have that inherent melodrama pull through, and I think it's good. The cinematographer for this did the cinematography on the 3 most recent John Wick movies, and it shows. Like, those movies look fine because it's just like action, man. But, like, I don't know, something with the lenses was fucking me up. All the close-ups were shot really weird. The long shots were shot really weird. I just visually I didn't care for it, which was sad because, like, the makeup, the costumes for the most part, the locations, everything was amazing, and then they just made this fucking ugly movie, and then add to that the fucking CGI wolves and all that, and I did not care for that aspect of the movie. Visually, I thought it was unappealing, but, you know, the story is pretty sweet. I like the monster. It's very sympathetic to the monster, which I think a lot of Frankenstein adaptations are. At least, like, when you're adapting the original Mary Shelley novel, like, even the 1931 Boris Karloff movie was more or less sympathetic to the monster, which is the ideal way to go. But this really pumped it up to 11 and was like, it didn't really treat the monster like it's a monster, you know? I mean, like, everybody treated him that way in the movie, but the movie doesn't treat him that way, which is an interesting kind of dichotomy. We're supposed to care about the monster and like him, and it's like, he's not that bad of a guy, you know? He just wants friends. And there's some really incredible set pieces, like when the house is on fire and explodes, the castle.
Yeah.
There was some shitty CGI fire that was, like, clearly smaller fires that they upscaled to, like, be bigger. Like, they physically made it bigger, not, like, upscaled the resolution. I mean, they physically upscaled, like, a tiny fire to be much bigger. Yeah. Some, like, early 2000s looking Aragon-ass fireball explosions. I don't know. It's, like, this is a movie where, like, I couldn't imagine a worse cinematographer for this movie, because it's like all the pieces were there to be such a beautiful, unique looking movie, and it just looks so fucking cheap and ugly. And I think part of it's like, it's also just shot on like these cheap digital cameras, and I'm like, man, like, if anybody but this guy shot it, man, it would have looked so much better. So I think more than anything, I was disappointed by that. It's like missed potential, because for some reason I just could not get into the look of the movie, really at no fault of like the costumes and stuff. And I know that's kind of a weird criticism, but when you see these like CGI animals that are getting thrown around and shot in broad daylight, there's some really weird color choices, like the daytime shots on the ship that he's on. There's a framing device where he's on a ship and Frankenstein's trying to flee from him, the monster, and there's like this daytime shot and it just looks like so like fucking weird. I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it. It all just looks so artificial and weird when you're like, you can tell like everyone but the cinematographer, and I'm sorry to dog on this guy so much, but like everybody but the cinematographer was bringing their A game. And of course Netflix is like plug-in stock CGI wolves and shit didn't look great, but I don't know. It had so much potential visually that it just totally failed to meet because the cinematography was dog, but otherwise Frankenstein is a franchise that the nature of it being very long public domain and a very popular franchise has seen millions of adaptations. Do I think this is gonna withstand the test of time? I kind of think it's like Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula, where it's like a thing that happened and it's notable because a big filmmaker did it, but
Yeah.
I don't think in 5 years anyone's going to be talking about 2025 Frankenstein. They'll forget about it by the next 6 adaptions. Netflix will forget about it and order someone else, to the Russo brothers or something, to make a fucking Frankenstein movie next year.
Starring Ryan Reynolds.
Starring, The Rock as the monster. Kind of a comedy gig.
Did you just get struck by electricity and come to life?
You're gonna want to run. Literally, the first thing he says when he wakes up is he peers out the window. You're gonna want to duck right now, and then a million machine gun bullets fly through, and Ryan Reynolds says, "That just happened." Something like that.
Yeah.
So, Aiden, would you recommend Frankenstein 2025?
Yes, I would. I thought it was very pretty. Well, I thought it was very sweet, not pretty. Really the only caveat is that you either need to have Netflix or obtain it through other means. So that's kind of a pain in the ass. But, working around that is relatively simple, and I think it's a fairly enjoyable adaptation of Frankenstein. Probably not for everyone. It's slow and melodramatic, but it did hit the right notes for me. So I'm going to say yes. Connor, would you recommend Netflix's Guillermo del Toro's Mary Shelley's Frankenstein?
Yeah. The story's good. The costumes are good. There's a lot of decent stuff in it. In terms of Frankenstein adaptions, do I lean more towards like Universal and Hammer? Obviously. That's just because that's the type of shit I like. In terms of like trying to do more of a low-key Victorian style, I thought it was very impressive. It had some, I don't know, like it's a good story. It's a lot of good set design. I can't believe they fucked it up so hard. I think it's so ugly. Most people don't have a problem with it, but like I honestly
there's a
thought
lot of
the
people
movie,
in my letterbox saying the same.
the movie was like fucking burning my eyes out. It was like throwing water on Dracula, holy water, holding a cross up to him, giving him garlic knots from Pizza Hut.
I could use some garlic knots right now.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's kind of one of those things where, like, I've never read the book Frankenstein. Maybe I will. Maybe I will, just so I can know. I mean, I would presume maybe it was closer to the book.
Yeah, your Halloween
Felt like
video, every Frankenstein adaptation.
Alright, Frankenstein movie 685 is Frankenstein
Now-
versus Frankenhooker.
Frankenstein in India.
For our 85th Bollywood adaptation of Frankenstein, Mary Shelley's Victorian novel Frankenstein. I gotta start with that, I gotta start with
Yeah, for every single
the
segment.
book. And then I say, look, you might be wondering.
In 1872, Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein.
And then I could
Since
even...
then, it's even come to India.
Then I'd have to review the Marvel Comics... The Marvel Comics adaptation, the adaptation of the Marvel Comics adaptation of the Mary Shelley novel. That's a big ripoff of the Universal version, made by Toei Anime, OVA for Japan.
Huh.
Marvel had a superhero Frankenstein book because they were doing like Dracula and shit in like the 70s when like, and then Toei decided they wanted to adapt Frankenstein, but not Mary Shelley's novel, which they could have done for free. They wanted to pay Marvel. They wanted to pay Marvel to adapt their comic, which, like, visually is just like a huge rip-off of the fucking Boris Karloff movies. It's very interesting that they decided that they would go ahead and do that whole thing. But it is something that happened. I want to see Guillermo del Toro's adaptation of Son of Frankenstein, where Boris Karloff plays Frankenstein's monster Jr.
Yeah.
We're getting Jake. Actually, speaking of Frankenstein, this won't be our only Frankenstein adaptation we're reviewing in the near future, because Maggie Gyllenhaal is doing her own Frankenstein movie with Christian Bale and Jake Gyllenhaal, her brother. Just the Dark Knight reunion. Got a little Dark Knight reunion. Got a little big brother in there, Jake, or little brother. I don't know. So, I mean, that mostly just seems interesting because of the cast. I don't know if Maggie Gyllenhaal's ever directed a movie. We could go back and watch Lisa Frankenstein. I know at one point we were going to watch that and then declined, so. I think this might be our first Frankenstein Drunkview. Yeah, speaking of the Dark Knight and Frankenstein, Frankenstein. Featuring Aaron Egerton or
Don't
whatever.
forget the...
what happened to that guy?
Don't forget the... like a year after Frankenstein, there's that one with Daniel Radcliffe, too.
Yep. That might have been the same year, Battle of the Frankensteins.
I can't remember it. They were close together.
They were close enough together that I remember thinking, another Frankenstein movie already?
This probably isn't even the first Netflix adaptation.
We'll be back with Frankenstein, Netflix's Frankenstein 2032, directed by the Wachowski sisters.
We'll be doing another Netflix movie next week.